All right, Laura Coates, I want to bring you in on this because what we've learned here about the charges is he's been charged, Derek Chauvin, the man who had his knee on the neck of George Floyd preceding his death. He's been charged with murder in the third degree and manslaughter. And just looking here at the statute in Minnesota, it is whoever without intent to affect the death of any person causes the death of another by perpetrating an act eminently dangerous to others and evincing a depraved mind without regard for human life is guilty of murder in the third degree and may be sentenced to imprisonment for not more than 25 years. We were speaking earlier as we didn't know what the charge was. What is this going to say about intent? And so what this is saying here is that without intent to kill, right, but with no regard for human life. What do you make of murder in the third degree here?
Well, the actual reading of that statute is so important for people to understand the state of mind and the intent of the Hennepin County prosecutor. What we're seeing here is that although we have all seen the intentional act of kneeling on Mr. George Floyd's neck, although we have seen the intentional act of ignoring the bystanders' pleas for him to be able to breathe, and the ignoring of Mr. Floyd in trying to actually have an opportunity to breathe again, while all of those were intentional acts, as was the length of time, what we're seeing is the prosecutor did not believe that those actions was an intent to kill, but instead is finding and is decided at this point in time, and at this point in time it's important, at this point in time, that irrespective of the intent to actually cause the death of George Floyd, that he acted in such a way that totally ignored any bounds of decency and any anticipation that the person would die, he ignored. And that was foreseeable, a foreseeable result of the conduct that was actually there. You see this supported, of course, by the fact that this was not something that was sanctioned by the police department, the firing of this officer in particular, the idea of the policy and procedure manual only talking about the use of force or restraining in any event only when there is a lethal risk posed to the officer or the person is currently and actively resisting arrest. That is not the case here. And so you're seeing the prosecutor's office, I think, looking at the fact that this was a police officer on the one hand, and many of the people who look at these cases see that there is a benefit of the doubt that is extended to police officers, what a reasonable police officer would have done, but also whether this officer intended to get up this morning or have that interaction with Mr. George Floyd and cause his death. The prosecutor seems to believe that that was not the case, that it was unintentional, but the law still recognizes it as a crime.